Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who thought they'd lead ya? Who thought they'd lead ya? Where we need ya, where we need ya. We teased them a lot, but we got them on the spot. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We always could spot a friend. Welcome back. And I smile when I think how you must have been. And I know what a scene you were learning in. There was something that made you come back again. What could ever lead you? What could ever lead you back where we need you? Where we need you? We teased them a lot, but we got them on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are live. Welcome to Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. I wasn't going to give you a warning today. I was not going to give you a warning today. PATC edition of Welcome Back, Carter, for which Rich Rodriguez. We are doing the PATC Spotlight. West Virginia today is under the PATC Spotlight, and Rich Rod is back in Morgantown. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this rebel outpost, if you want to support the home for the true college football sickos with a donation, hit the $ where you make your comment, and I'll get to Super Chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio. And no, it's not a singing studio. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits in the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Silent Tony, I took notes. I've got notes. He did the Joe Klatt show. Very impressive public salvo. Talking about why he has the vision of the AQ model for the college football playoffs 2026 and beyond. Very impressive. I have completely turned myself around. I am for the automatic qualifiers as long as there is an exit hatch, as long as it is firm but flexible. Like the AQs can change per performance, per conference, per performance. But yeah, it's after listening to Tony Petitti, he did a great job. For all the negativity that I have placed on him, he should have done this a day after the spring meetings closed up. But whatever, this is fine. He did a great job today. If you did not watch that interview, Joe Klatt, go give it a watch. But before you do that, I'm going to give you my opinion on it. We're going to run it down. I've got a lot of notes. Hopefully I can read my notes. So we are going to go through that. You can tell just off the bat, he wants to go 16. And I think in the future, they're probably going to want to go more. I think he left enough hints out there that even if they do a 16-team playoff, he's going to want a first round. He's going to want a first round bye. Now, we don't know what the number, how many teams would get a first round bye, probably 2, but he wants the top conference champions to have an automatic bye. He wants an incentive for those conference championship games. He wants playing. We're going to go through it all. It was very impressive. But his main objective, besides representing the Big Ten Conference and the 18 institutions, he was up front. He says, I'm representing these 18 institutions. That is his number one job. But he also said his basically his second objective when it comes to the AQ model, he wants a post-season format that makes the regular season better, more valuable, more interesting. Just like the professional leagues. The 5+11. For all, look, Tony Petitti's model has some warts to it. And I brought those things up. But compared to the 5+11 model, I'm going to give you guys my strong opinion on this, and I want to hear from you, and I have been hearing from you, and I got no problem with whatever you say in the chat room with your phone. But this, when it comes to the objective of a postseason format that makes the regular season better, this an AQ model blows away the 5+11. Blows it away. But we're going to go through everything he said. Some things I kind of disagreed with, but he was impressive. How he delivered the information was impressive, in my opinion. He should do more of that. Silent Tony, you should do more of that. And as you can see by the horrendous version, the PATC rendition of Welcome Back that I just sang horribly, we're going to talk about West Virginia. West Virginia Mountaineers is under the PATC spotlight today. That is our spotlight team. So we're going to go through that. We've got some CBA discussions. I give flowers to Tennessee's athletic director, Danny White. I like the fact that there are now people pushing the CBA and have at least some details. Danny White he's got a whole flow chart out there. Thank you. From the report, it sounded like he has been pushing this for a while, and he has mentioned it in public a couple of times. But now in public, he says it's time for him to come out in public with some details, information. We're also going to have the other side of it. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be way more difficult than the professional leagues, all that stuff. So a little bit of a discussion on CBA, and we've got some other news out there. Other news that we're going to cover. Let's do Ricky Tungate. Happy Monday from Bloomington to PATC, Bloomington, Indiana. Mr. Hoosier, Ricky Tungate, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity and all the help you have given our program. Mr. Tungate and family, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. What a great way to start off the live show Monday, last day of June 30th. 3 years from now. 3 years from now. 3 years ago. 3 years ago, breaking news, USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten. Or at least it was announced that they were going to join the Big Ten. Okay, here we go. Mr. Monkey says, Big Lubbock is in the house. D5 Terps, son of Sarek, Al Woody. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I don't know where this rumor started. I've talked to a few people. I do not believe it. Unless I see it reported by On3 or 247 or ESPN. Why would Notre Dame have any interest in Jack Retzlaff? Why would Notre Dame have any interest in Jack Retzlaff? Notre Dame came out and said that they're not going to bring in a Porter quarterback for the third year in a row. Remember, they did Sam Hartman, then they did Riley Leonard. They wanted an Angeli, Minchie, and CJ Carr battle. But Angeli, he left. So it's Minchie and CJ Carr, and basically this is going to be CJ Carr's team. He was absolutely sensational in spring ball. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the Jake Rasloff to Notre Dame at all. Maybe the Tennessee. I'll buy that one. But no, I do not buy, I don't get it. But Woody, a lot of people I've gotten DMs on it. I've seen good people, credible people talk about it. I'm not buying it. Chad Bracey's in the house. And nothing against Jake Rasloff. But it's CJ Carr's time at Notre Dame. They're not going to tell CJ Carr, this is just not going to happen. Stephen Vitt, oh no. Greg Singing, oh yes. Oh yes. And I was unusually bad today. Unusually bad. Jay Chapman is in the house. Devil Frog is here. John Grove, go Husky. Richard L. Kaplan is spinning in his grave. Do you remember, are you old enough, Richard L., when Gabe Kaplan defeated somebody in the ABC Wild World of Sports? It was like network versus network, and Gabe Kaplan defeated, I don't remember that guy's name, but Gabe Kaplan basically won a competition. It was like an overtime between two networks, and Gabe Kaplan brought it on home. Steel Austin is in the house. Cranky Tiger is here. MBM is here. Ryan Thomas. You know the show is serious when Greg comes out singing. Where's Horshack? I could have need him. I needed him. Michael Uten is in the house. Heelan, Florida is here. NE is here. Yeah, he can transfer. I don't know where he's going. I'm not buying Notre Dame. Skaven, yes, it's still storming up there, Greg. Xmas Talks is in the house. RFR Mac is here. Replica. Silent No More. Silent Tony. Jose is in the house. Steel Austin. Vox Quindaro. Rod Nix. Rock and Rant. Honestly, I didn't think he did a bad job. I don't think he did a great job. I think it was kind of whatever job. Richard Brookins is in the house. Coy is here. Jimmy is here. Joe Klatt looks like a young Tony Petitti. That is the very first thing I noticed. Those two guys are related. The DNA mixes somewhere. My God, that was like, they got to be second or third cousins if Tony Petitti is not the older brother of Joe Klatt or a younger father with not much of an age gap. Man, those guys look similar. Holy smokes. Jay Chapman, Heelan, Florida. Jonathan Price is in the house. Bo Weevil is here. Thank you, Movie Time Blues. I got that interview sent to me by about 12 people this morning. And I knew it was happening yesterday. But thank you, Movie Time Blues. I do appreciate you keeping your head on a swivel. Ryan Thomas is in the house. Big Gun Shop is here. Who else is here? Well, who am I missing? Kenneth Stromness is here. Thanks for coming on in. Rod Nix, Big Lubbock, the Big Lubbock. Now they've got Mr. Edwards from Maryland. Ryan Willie is in the house. Friends Call Me Sean is here. Robert Conrad. How do you remember that name? Gabe Kaplan defeats Robert Conrad. Yes, thank you, Dave B. Appreciate it. Jason Roberts is in the house. Caleb Ramirez is here. Yeah, they're bringing, EA Sports is bringing College Game back in a few years from now. Okay. So we started the live show singing Welcome Back from Welcome Back Kata because Rich Rodriguez is back. Rich Rodriguez is back. But is the West Virginia Mountaineers back? Are they back? Are they ready to go? Are they ready to at least challenge for the Big 12 championship game? Nico, the left-hander out of Arizona. I talked about him during his high school years. He was remarkable. His tape was sensational. West Virginia won a big recruiting battle. But, he's never been their QB1. I think he's going to be their QB1. I know he's in a quarterback battle. I get it. Jalen Henderson is going to battle him through the August camp. But I think they should start off with Nico. He's won a couple of games with West Virginia when he had to come in for Garrett Green. Last year, 438 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 66% completion percentage. I know that was not a lot of passes, but still, Garrett Green could have never have completed 66.1% of the passes. Nico is a lot more accurate. He's got some wheels to him. I hope that Nico Marchio is QB1. I think he should get the start. West Virginia, we're going to talk about the football schedule. We'll talk about it now. This year, West Virginia does not start out with a tough Power 4 opponent. They finally get a break in week 1. West Virginia finally gets a break in week 1. They go play Robert Morris. Then they go on the road against Ohio, the Ohio Bobcats, the defending, reigning, undisputed MAC champions. West Virginia, you're going to have to be ready to play that game. I know the Bobcats have a big turnover. They don't even have the same head coach. But you're going on the road and you're playing against the MAC champs. And they're predicted to come in the top 3 of the MAC. West Virginia's got to be ready to play that game. They got to be ready to play that game. Stephen Vitt, my Bobcats get West Virginia September 6th. That's week 2. Yep. And then West Virginia plays Pittsburgh on September 13th. And then they start off their Big 12 schedule on the road against Kansas September 20th. So West Virginia, they have a tune-up against Robert Morris, but it's important that Rich Rodriguez has his team not looking towards the Pittsburgh game. You got to focus on that Ohio Bobcat game. Nico Marchio, I think he should be the starting quarterback. Yaheem White, as a freshman, he ran for 842 yards, 7.7 yards per rush. Last year, he got the rock more often. The average went down, but it was still a good rushing average, 5.7 yards per rush. 7 rushing TDs, and they started to use him out of the backfield last year, West Virginia. Now, remember, C.J. Donaldson, the other starting West Virginia running back, is transferred to the Ohio State Buckeyes. So this is Yaheem White's team. He's going to be carrying the rock. Ty Edwards is going to be a backup. He's got a senior backing him up. But Yaheem White is the dude. He's going to get the rock more than he's ever gotten before. Hopefully for the Mountaineers, he starts the season healthy. He's a big, big component of the offense. This is the guy that I'm waiting to. He should explode this year. Rodney Gallagher, another guy that I followed his recruitment. He came out of the state of Pennsylvania. The Gophers were in on him for a while. Penn State, West Virginia, basically the last two teams in West Virginia got him. West Virginia got him. And every time Rodney Gallagher talks about West Virginia, he glows. He loves the place. He's going to be a Mountaineer for life. He's got a lot of skills. It's time. It's time. It's time for him to get in the offense. And Rich Rodriguez's offense is going to be a lot different than the previous offense. I expect Rodney Gallagher to absolutely explode in 2025. Now, what about Rich Rodriguez? The success that he's had over his whole career, by the way. But what did he have at Jacksonville State? One of the guys he had at Jacksonville State was Cam Vaughn. He transfers to West Virginia. He's going to be the starting wide receiver in Morgantown. 48 receptions, 803 receiving yards. Cam Vaughn stretches the field. 16.7 yards average per reception, 5 receiving touchdowns. So Cam Vaughn, hopefully he can give the Mountaineers some explosiveness. He knows Rich Rod. He wanted to follow Rich Rod. Rich Rod recruited Cam Vaughn to West Virginia. So you know he's going to get a lot of opportunity in Morgantown. Cam Vaughn, Rodney Gallagher. They got a guy, Jaden Brown. They got Preston Fox. Preston Fox is still there. Nico Marco, he's got some talent. He's got some talent out there. Now, if I was a West Virginia Mountaineer, right? If I was Daniel Gygax, if I was Justin Walker, Coos Corner, if I watched West Virginia every single day, if I broke down the tape every single day, I probably would be looking at somebody else when it comes to the important defensive player. So I'm going to put up a name here that Mr. Gygax probably would not have put up. Maybe he would have. Maybe he would have. But again, you talk about Rich Rodriguez with this big turnover. All these new players coming to Morgantown, right? Well, the new one, the big one, in my belief, is Jamari Robinson. A lot of teams went after Jamari Robinson. A lot of them. Now, I got him listed here as a defensive end. Other publications got him listed as a linebacker. But what Jamari Robinson really is a rush end. And that's what he's going to be playing in the NFL. Last year, for the Roadrunners, 27 solo tackles, 43 combination tackles, 10.5 sacks, 17 tackle for losses, 2 pass defenses, 2 forced fumbles. Jamari Robinson, all AAC Defensive Player of the Year. A lot of people went after him. West Virginia Mountaineers got him. So, again, tune up against Robert Morris. Then on the road at Ohio. And then they got the Pittsburgh Panthers backyard brawl happening on September 13th. Jamari Robinson I think he's going to be a big part of the West Virginia defense and team for this season. Now, I'm not going to blow smoke. This is a big turnover for West Virginia. If they finish in the top half of the Big 12, boy, oh boy, Rich Rodriguez is going to have a lot of momentum going into 2026. But I will say this. For West Virginia, in my opinion, it's a lot more important how they look at home against Colorado, at Arizona State, and at home against Texas Tech. Those last 3 games, I think, are the season for West Virginia. In other words, Colorado at home, you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on that. Deion Sanders, Rich Rodriguez. Then they're going to be on the road in Tempe. They're going to be playing the defending, reigning, undisputed Big 12 champions, Arizona State. And then they're at home against Texas Tech. How they look. Are they competitive? Can they win 2 of those 3 games? 1 of those 3 games? In my opinion, it's not so much the record that West Virginia ends up with. It's how they end up. Those last 3 games, are they better in those 3 games than they were earlier in the season? Is there a quarterback that has taken over the QB1 spot heading into next year? Hopefully it's Nico. If not, could be Mr. Henderson. Have they found their identity? Rich Rodriguez, that he's a brilliant offensive mind. Brilliant. Look at the stats. Look at everywhere he's been. Look at what just happened last year at Jacksonville State. That quarterback wasn't supposed to be that good. What happens those last 3 games? They could be 4-5 going in those last 3 games. They could be 5-4. They could be 3-6. They could be 6-3. But it's those last 3 games. Can they win a couple of those? Or if they lose them all, can they be really competitive? Momentum. Recruiting momentum. Rich Rodriguez, everybody buying in. That's where I think the season is for West Virginia. Not so much the start, but the end. Put down your comments and thoughts in the comment section below the video. This has been your West Virginia Spotlight PATC. Okay. A few news items here before we get to Tony Petitti. Before we get to Tony Petitti's interview with Joe Klatt, Ben Portnoy of Sports Business Journal, the College Sports Commission is hiring Washington National Executive John Bramlett as its head of operations, and Deputy General Counsel Ross Dellinger. More hires coming for Brian Seeley's staff, including a full enforcement and investigative team. The College Sports Commission. The College Sports Commission. We're going to be using that term a lot during the season. Texas State Board. They have approved the $5 million exit fee to leave the Sun Belt and join the Pac-12. Chris Vanini, The Athletic, it's official. Texas State to the Pac. Ross Dellinger, as we reported yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, for now there are no imminent plans for the Pac-12 to make other membership additions. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. The league is next expected to finalize agreements with more media partners to join CBS Sports, the primary platform. And real big news, This is real big news. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Brett McMurphy. We call him the great Brett McMurphy. Some breaking realignment news. I'm joining On3 Sports as their college football insider. Let's bleepin' go. Brett McMurphy on 3. Woo! This is a very powerful combination. And I'll leave it at that. Brett McMurphy joins On3. He begins tomorrow, July 1st. Now, I'm just surmising here. I'm just speculating. I'm just talking out loud. But, you know, Brett McMurphy, you've seen his incredible track record. You've seen him do it at Action Sports and before that. But now he's on a big old platform. And, well, I'm going to leave it at that. Brett McMurphy on 3, buckle up, brace for impact. Now, let's get to Silent Tony Petitti. First of all, Heartbreak 25, thank you so very much. Petitti further proved that he's strategic, thoughtful, pragmatic. I didn't like his Notre Dame non-answer, but I get he doesn't want to ruffle feathers. Heartbreak 25. First of all, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. One of my notes, and I don't know where it is. Okay. I got it. I got it right here. Bottom left-hand corner, scribbled on the margin. Carve-outs for Notre Dame avoided the answer. Avoided the question. Petitti was very direct throughout this whole interview until it came to Notre Dame. We'll circle back to that. We will circle back. But Heartbreak 25, you picked up on that, didn't you? You picked up on that. I think there is, well, I think there is something there. D5 Terps, he's not going to say anything to burn a Notre Dame bridge. That is true. Ryan Thomas, Brett McMurphy in Realignment is like nitro to a car. Okay. And we haven't heard from Brett McMurphy lately, have we? And he was changing jobs. So, I don't know. You might want to, I don't know. Maybe you want to buckle up. That's your choice. I don't know. Okay. Joe Klatt interviewed Tony Petitti. And I'm gonna go through my notes. You can tell me what you think in the chat room or with your phone calls later in the program. But again, he started off by this. Tony Petitti's number one objective is to represent the Big Ten and its 18 institutions. He said that from the very start of the interview. But number two, his other objective is the postseason format should make the regular season better. Tony Petitti wants more teams competing for the national title. More teams can get hot later in the season. He wants more meaningful conference games for all conferences as late in the season as possible. This is what you see in professional models. And he wants that in the collegiate model. Conference records. Tony Petitti is emphasizing conference records. Conference records should be the backbone, that's the word he used, to all of this. What are you doing in your conference? The non-conference games, now I'm paraphrasing this part. Tony did not say this. But the non-conference games should be way more important because that is your other bite of the apple to get to the playoffs for an at-large bid. But your conference record should be the backbone. In other words, you should not be eliminated from the playoffs because you lose a non-conference game. Your conference record should be the backbone. There should be qualifications because of your conference record. And then you got to risk it. Then you got to go and play a play-in game. Tony Petitti makes it real clear. He is extremely pro play-in game. He talked about the Ohio State Buckeyes finishing 4th in the conference last year. And then they went on to win the national title. He talks about how play-in games are somewhat, I'm paraphrasing this, of a cure, or it helps with all these unbalanced schedules in these large conferences. And you're going to get unbalanced schedules in these large conferences, no matter how you plan it out. Because some teams are just going to not be as good as you thought. Or some teams are going to be better than you thought. Indiana Hoosiers had Michigan and Washington on their schedule. The two teams last year, the two teams that went to the national championship the year before, but Indiana, Big Ten, nobody knew that Washington and Michigan were not going to be as good last year. And Michigan was pretty good. I mean, they beat Alabama in the bowl game, and Alabama had their starting quarterback and a whole bunch of the starters playing. But I digress. So, Petitti says in this interview, okay, you're going to have unbalanced schedules. You are. Joe Klatt brought up Oklahoma and Florida. Their schedules were way more difficult in the SEC than some others. And he did not name the teams, but we know one of them, it's Texas. You can't avoid it. So what do? You have a play-in game. You got to play one more game. If you win that game, if you qualify for a play-in game, and if you win that game, you're in. And if you lose, and if you do not have a very good schedule, strength of schedule, or you don't pass the eye test, then you're not going to make it in. So Tony Petitti says this is what you do with these large unbalanced schedules in these large conferences. You have a play-in game. He says the Big Ten is not afraid to compete. We want to win it on the field. Discrepancy in schedules. And plus the playing games would be exciting, and they're going to have more teams have a potential pathway to the playoffs, more than this 5+11. You're going to know what you need to do in your conference play. As a fan, you're going to know what the West Virginia Mountaineers need to do. You're going to know as a BYU Cougar fan. You're going to know as a Utah Ute fan. You're going to know as a Wake Forest Deacon fan. You're going to know the ways to get to the playoffs. Through your conference record, win the play-in game, or get a large bid, and you got to come out swinging and win some big non-conference games. Okay. Then they talked about the model. 442213. Petitti, yeah, that's the model he put forward. But he is interested in hearing other options. He's still willing to listen to the 5+11. I'll get back to that in a moment. But just to give you a little sneak preview, Tony Petitti says he hasn't heard anything about the 5+11 that he thinks it works. But we'll get back to that. On the model, he did not quite say it. You're going to have to go listen to the interview. But Tony Petitti kind of went like, maybe we could kind of change it. Like, in other words, it's not cemented in those numbers. But I got to warn you, he did not quite say, he went up to the line, but he did not quite say that. I think he doesn't want to negotiate in public. But Joe Klatt brought up the 4-4, 2.5, 2.5, 1-2 model to him. And Tony Petitti says, I'd be willing to talk about it. But we have not had that formal discussion. He used the word formal. No one has presented it formally. But you can tell he's heard about it. You can tell they've talked about it. But they haven't had a formal discussion on it. He says the 5+11. Tony Petitti believes that the playoff committee, has been doing a good job, basically under impossible situation. Basically, what they're trying to do is impossible. What they're being asked to do is really impossible. Tony Petitti brought up the example of just look in the Big Ten. Just look in the Big Ten of last year. Look at one conference. There was a wide disparity, a wide variety of opinions on exactly how the teams ranked in the Big Ten. Like, who is better than who? Like, because of the unbalanced schedules. That's why he's for the playing games. It's like, he says, if we have this, we don't quite know in the Big Ten, how in the heck are you going to compare all these conferences together? A 10 and a 2 versus a 9 and 3. He kept bringing that up. He says, we're asking the committee to do the impossible. And if we go from a 5+11 to a 5+7 to a 5+11, We're just giving them more impossibilities. Joe Klatt says, yeah, I think the 5+11 would just bring about propaganda. It would be propaganda every week. And Tony Petitti was very kind. He kind of nodded his head yes. Tony Petitti has said he has not seen anything. Nothing that would lead him to believe that 5+11 and all these new metrics is going to solve anything. He's pretty strong on that. In fact, he said, when he's talked to Ward Manuel and others, the committee already has enough data. They don't need any more data. They're overflowing with data. What are you going to do? Bring them the 7-page manual from they've already got enough data. But it's always going to come down to just the little margins of trying to figure out who should go, who shouldn't. 10-2 versus 9-3, 11-1 versus 10-2, teams in different conferences. Petitti, I did not write the numbers down, but Petitti wrote the numbers down of just there's not enough crossover games between conferences. And go watch the interview. Go watch the interview. Tony Petitti says this at least 3 times. At least 3 times. He says, how many conference games is everybody playing? He kept talking about it. He goes, are we all playing 9 games? Are we all playing? The Big Ten, I'm telling you, if the SEC don't go to 9 games, all this is for naught. We're not going to go from 7 at large to 11 at large with the SEC staying at 8 conference games. It ain't happening. The Big Ten will just stay at 12. But I will tell you this. In my strongly held opinion, and I cannot imagine anybody watching this that would have a different opinion, but maybe y'all are going to have a different opinion. But Tony Petitti wants a bigger playoffs. So does the SEC. Tony Petitti said that the SEC and the Big Ten want a bigger playoffs. He says 12 is not enough. Joe Klatt likes the 14 playoff. But Tony Petitti wants 16. And I think they're going to want more 6 years from now. More than 16. Petitti wants more access, more games in October and November, more conference games to mean more. And the model, the AQ model does that. And the 5+11 doesn't. Because nobody knows where they really stand during the season. And it's all going to be propaganda. When asked about, before I get to the Notre Dame part, Tony Petitti made this, in my opinion, really, really clear. Now, this is going to upset a lot of you. But remember, we had a report from Ross Dellinger, about a month ago, talking about a first round buys for the top teams. I don't know, maybe it was the top 2 teams, top 4 teams, I don't know. But Tony Petitti, you could tell, go ahead and watch this interview. You could tell that Tony Petitti supports buys in a 16-team playoff. So, if Tony Petitti could have it his way, it would not be 1 versus 16. It would not be 2 versus 15. It would not be 3 versus 14. It would not be 4 versus 13 in the first round. Tony Petitti made it real clear. He said it live on the Joe Klatt show. Says the Big Ten has been looking at 1 versus 2 championship, Big Ten championship game, 3 versus 6 play-in, 4 versus 5 play-in. That is the Big Ten plan. He doesn't want to de-emphasize the college conference championship games, mainly among the Power Four conferences. But everybody, in theory. He wants the opportunity for the top-rated conference champions to get that first-round bye. So you all can play with the models. Ross Dellinger reported it. You know, you could have a 3 versus 16. There could be 2 buys, whatever. You guys can figure that out. They didn't really mention it in the live show, but Tony Petitti talked about the challenges in scheduling the playoffs. So having 8 first-round games is going to be a mess. But that's why Tony Petitti does not want to de-emphasize the conference championship games. That's why he wants 1 versus 2 in the Big Ten, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Tony Petitti also said this. According to Big Ten models, according to Big Ten modeling, you know, they've had, just like everybody else, just like the SEC, they bring these third parties in, these Google mathematicians. And if the Big 12 and the ACC and the Big 10 and the SEC have their play-in games, if you have the automatic qualifiers, if you have the play-in games, their models show that after week 13 of the regular season, you would have 40 to 50 teams in play-in contention or just one game out of play-in contention. In other words, the week before week 13, you could have 40, 45, 50 teams all battling, still believing, still having a pathway to the playoffs. 5 plus 11, you're not going to have anywhere near that. Plus, you're not even going to be sure, you know, whatever. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole right now. But so that is what the Big Ten modeling says. Notre Dame, as was brought up earlier in the chat room. He was asked about Notre Dame, and Joe Klatt said, you know, I had Marcus Freeman on my show, really intelligent guy. He talked about how maybe Notre Dame would have to leave football independence, and Marcus Freeman brought that up to Joe Klatt. This is how possibly what could happen, and Tony Petitti answered that question differently than all the other questions that he was answered. He said that Notre Dame has their playoff access. That is not going to change because it's guaranteed to them. Just like the 5 top-ranked conference champions are going to have a berth to the playoffs automatically because that's guaranteed for the next 5-6 years. Tony Petitti said that the SEC and the Big Ten have the power. He said it on this interview. We have the power to form the playoffs, but there are some things that we cannot touch. Notre Dame's playoff access and top 5 ranked conference champions. He said that Notre Dame, they don't have to worry about it. They've got playoff access. He says they are a very important part of the ecosystem of college football. But Joe Klatt wanted to lead him somewhere else with the question, obviously. And Tony Petitti completely clammed up. Go watch the interview. Every other question, he was direct. He answered it. Joe Klatt wasn't really talking about Notre Dame's playoff access. He was really talking about, when do you think Notre Dame's going to jump to a conference? Why does Notre Dame get all these special carve-outs? That's what Joe Klatt asked Tony Petitti. And Petitti sidestepped it. Absolutely sidestepped the question. I thought that was interesting. So that's about it. Tony Petitti did make it clear that he is willing to listen, that the Big Ten is willing to take any idea and have this consultant look at it. They're willing to do it quickly. He kept saying that. Give us ideas. Bring them to us. But when asked, are we anywhere close to having an agreement here? Are you anywhere close, Tony, for this 5+11? Could that possibly work? And Tony, I'm going to paraphrase it, said, not even close. He goes, we keep, how many conference games is everybody playing? Are they playing all the same conference games? That is going to be a requirement. That's going to be a requirement. And then he said, how is the committee going to do their job? People don't like the committee now for the job that they do when it's 5+7. Why would they like it even more when it's 5+11? And Tony Petitti said this in the interview. He said, it's only going to get harder because if you do 5+11, those teams really start looking similar. The 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, they look really similar. They all have a game that they shouldn't have lost, but they lost the game, right? They have a couple conference losses. They all look very similar. More data is not going to help. So anyways, that was Tony Petitti. Very interesting interview. Go check it out, Joe Klatt. One more item, and then we'll get to your phone calls here. I want to thank the people that giving me the super chats. Unbelievable. Thank you so much. RFR Mac. I think BYU did the right thing. That was hard for me to say. Well, I don't know. I mean, Jake Rasloff, he broke the honor code. The honor code is no secret to anybody who joins the athletic department, who joins the university. That's their business. Private university. Jake Rasloff admitted he basically broke it. He's going to transfer. I do not know where he's going. RFR Mac, Utah Utes, a member for 18 months. Holy smokes. Thank you so much, sir. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity. You are hereby knighted, officially cloak and dagger. Thank you for becoming a member for 18 months. Mr. Ute, RFR Mac. That was very big of a Ute to admit that BYU did the right thing. Unbelievable. And now I know there's a lot of optimism in Provo. I know there's a lot of optimism about Bear Bachmeier. But man, maybe he's going to turn out to be a great quarterback. But still, with the experience, the gap in experience, big time Big 12 football, I don't know. I think BYU probably most likely going to take a little step back this year. But who knows? Maybe they've got somebody, Bear Bachmeier, Heelstead. One of them will lead them to the promised land. We shall see. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Jacober Cat, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so very much. General Petitti needs to Sherman march to the sea to force the SEC to capitulate, or the North will sack Atlanta again and take Miami. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Thank you for the super chat, Jacober Cat. Thank you so much for your creative writing. I appreciate it. That would be DEFCON 1. I think we're sitting at DEFCON 2. They got to figure it out, that college football playoffs. That is a big plane that needs to land. The NCAA House settlement, that plane landed. The college football playoff format, that is the next plane that lands. And I don't know how they're going to get to a compromise. The Big Ten ain't going to bend that knee for 5+11 while the SEC stays at 8 conference games. You can't have that. You can't have that happen. Daniel Gorby, thank you, Jacober Cat. Daniel Gorby, Sankey is already drafting his snarky response. Thank you, Daniel Gorby, Mr. Seminole. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate your support. Expedition Greg, thank you again for all your support. Thank you for the super chat. I do very much appreciate it. I know people want to get to the phone calls, but we got one more story we got to get to. Again, it is a challenge, National College Football YouTube channel, to cover everything, but at least we got to try to cover everything. Collective bargaining. Now, there was a large article. We're not going to go through the whole article. We're going to take pieces of this. Could collective bargaining be the answer for college sports? Some athletic directors are ready to say the quiet part out loud. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. For more than 2 years now, Danny White, the athletic director of Tennessee, has quietly socialized with select colleagues a detailed presentation that he believes serves as a solution to what ails the college sports industry. He worked in the shadows, pitching his solutions. Now he's finally come out in public. It's time to go public, he said. Recently, from a gathering of athletic administrators at Orlando World Center Marriott, I've been voicing it in private rooms for 4 years. I'm not going to bite my tongue anymore. Danny White. The presentation, shown in detail to Yahoo Sports, illustrates how college athlete collective bargaining model might work. The package features multiple flowcharts, a detailed explanation of the concepts, and a stunning change that may make university leaders squirm. It refers to players not as student athletes, but as employee athletes. In White's model, college athletes would, in fact, not be employees of their schools. The structure calls for the creation of a national employment organization that partners with the Players Association. Interesting. Collective bargaining and employment status shouldn't be seen as negative term, he told Yahoo Sports. I think there's a lot of people who think the same way I do. We can go through another 3 or 5 or 10 years of the difficult environment, or we can accept reality and fix it right now. Whether you call it collective bargaining or some kind of negotiating process, I think it is needed. Baylor Athletic Director Mac Rhodes told Yahoo Sports, it's worth exploring. SMU Athletic Director Damon Evans said, there is a concern over unionizing, and I understand that, but where we are right now, I don't think this is the last iteration of this process. Some athletic administrators and even head football coaches are serious enough about the concept that they have participated in in-person bargaining or unionization presentations before those attempting to organize players like Jim Cavall of Athletic Organization and Jason Stahl of College Football Players Association. Collective bargaining problems. For roughly 15 years, DeMaurice Smith presided over the NFL Players Association, and yet he is a realist when it comes to unionization and collective bargaining in college. But what would collective bargaining solve? How could it realistically happen? I see everybody saying that collective bargaining is a solution. It's not, says Scott Snyder, who leads an Austin, Texas-based educational and employment law firm. Logistically, at this point, it's impossible. That's my question. Logistically, how can it be structured? Because, my goodness, it's going to be so much more complicated than the NFL, than the NBA, than the NHL. Pragmatically, it would be extremely difficult, he told Yahoo Sports. There is such a large number of athletes playing in desperate number of sports, with some being revenue generating, some not. Smith goes on to identify many of the headwinds that any collective bargaining concept might face. We're going to skip down to the bottom paragraph on this slide. It's not clear at this point in time that college athletes want to be in a union, said Gabe Feldman, a sports law professor at Tulane. They may feel that they're getting benefits they need through antitrust law. Snyder, the Austin-based attorney, describes any bargaining or negotiating in college as benefiting only the schools. Why would athletes bargain for a worse deal? They currently have a whole bunch of universities competing for their services. We've said all along, there's only two obvious solutions: federal intervention or collective bargaining. And I would agree. Florida Athletic Director Scott Strickland said, maybe the settlement is a thread the needle approach, but you'll probably hear more people talk about collective bargaining until we have some semblance of structure. You have this bottleneck of different philosophical differences, Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel said. The idea they come together and they say they can collectively bargain, you're losing half the Congress. If you say, well, we want antitrust protection, you're losing most of the other half. Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, hears very loudly the push for collective bargaining set up within his organization and from his individual member schools, but he says it's not as simple as a lot of people alleged. For one, the professional leagues bargain with about 4,700 players. Each power league has 2 to 3 times that amount for upwards of 30 sports, not 4. I had 65 unions I negotiated with when I was the governor. I'm quite aware of the complexity to this, Baker told Yahoo Sports in a recent interview. Before everybody says, stop, let's do something else, let's see if the settlement works. In other words, let's see if they can get a federal carve-out. On Tuesday, the college sports industry will begin a large march towards learning that answer. Finally, in the article, with the settlement work as intended and survive certain legal challenges, or will college sports' new endeavor fail the legal test, in the end arrive at the place so many people believe is inevitable? At some point, collective bargaining is going to be what happens, Boise State football coach Spencer Danielson said. I don't know why we just don't call them employees, said one sitting FBS University president. There is an old maxim, something that must be done eventually must be done immediately. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, again at PATC, the very first episode, live show episode that I ever did. Very first episode. I talked about the need for a collective bargain to get to a collective bargaining agreement between the student athletes and the conferences and or schools. I don't have much hope for that to happen. It is a lot more complex than I ever imagined 3 years ago when I started this YouTube channel. Could it happen in the future? Absolutely. But it's got to be one or the other. A federal carve-out or an unbelievable, complicated collective bargain. And the collective bargain's got to be well thought out, because if that goes pear-shaped, I have 1,000 questions on how it could possibly work. But that is where we are. Feel free to put down your comments in the comment section or give us a phone call. We're going to open up the phone lines right now. We've covered a lot. West Virginia, the Mountaineers, the PATC spotlight was on the West Virginia Mountaineers. We talked about Tony Petitti's interview with Joe Klatt. I thought he came off really impressive. Really impressive. And I think he made a good argument for a qualifying automatic AQ model versus the 5+11. I thought he did a great job. The phone lines are open. Anybody give us a call. Talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Replica. The time for the collective bargaining was 10 years ago when they lost the O'Bannon case. It's too late to put the toothpaste back in the tube. These schools aren't disciplined enough financially. College football mafia. Anything is possible. Maybe less likely for college CBA, but it would be worth researching. ACC has to go to 9 conference games. Clinton Moses, head on a swivel. James Davis, the schools are public, they will not get it. Texas law, Ed Cook provides that collective bargaining agreement is unenforceable related to public employees. Again, this setup, Danny White's setup, is the players will not be employees of the university. They would be employees of an association, connected to whoever is representing them. Ryan Brooks, we want the Big Ten's milkshake too. Okay, let me see if there's anything else going on here. Any breaking news since we started the live show? We've covered a lot today. June 30th, last day of the month. Tomorrow is July 1st. That starts a new, that first of all, the settlement, everything becomes official. July 1st is the start of the new fiscal year in college sports. July 1st is like we've arrived. We are truly in 2025. Tomorrow. Wow, Brian Kohlberger accepts a plea deal in the 2022 murders of 4 University of Idaho students. He accepted a plea deal. Breaking news. He avoids the death penalty. Wow. Revenue sharing in college sports officially begins today. Division I programs can now directly pay athletes, marking a historic shift with more changes ahead. It's begun. As for Jake Ratzlaff, let me know if there's any more steam out there. I almost want to say that if Jake Ratzlaff ends up at Notre Dame, that I would eat a cheeseburger live on this program. Because that's how sure there's no way that's going to happen. I'm wondering if I should do that. Opie, holy smokes, look at that super chat. I'm confused here lately. Lots of SEC bashing lately. SEC play cupcakes and it's sacrilege, but when the Big Ten does it, they're supporting that school's program. The SEC has played this schedule for years. Now it's a problem. Thank you, Opie. Thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Thank you so very much. Let me try to answer that question. Opie, let me try to answer that question. No problem. You're right, Opie. You're right. The SEC stay at 8 conference games. 8 of them. No problem. You see, look how much I'm willing to just lay out there and say the fat guy from Minnesota. I'm not going to demand anything. I am, but you can play 8 conference games. You can play 8. However, we're not going to 16-team playoffs. We're not going to a 5+11. That's it. That's the compromise. Because if you attach 4 more at-large bids to the structure, all the data shows you that the SEC gains great advantage because they're not taking on the automatic losses in their conference when it comes to adding a 9th conference game. So we can stay the way it is. 5 plus 7. SEC, you stay at 8 conference games. But we're not going to go to 16. We're not going to do that. There is no way on God's green earth that the Big Ten or the Big 12 should support that. Look at Bill Connelly's article of 6 weeks ago. His data, it is so obvious. You know, you talk about these really hard schedules that the SEC has, but again, they're playing 8 conference games. They're not having the automatic losses that the Big 12 and the Big 10 has. Yeah, they have cupcakes non-conference games. So does the Big 10. Why? What? And the SEC suddenly doesn't want to play playing games. The coaches don't want that. The coaches don't want to go to 9 conference games because they're going to have more losses. They're not going to be able to make their bonuses. But go ahead. Keep doing 8 conference games, but we're not going to 16 on the playoffs. They won the last 2 natties. Now they have a voice, but they forgot about everything before they even... Again, I will tell you, I have said this. The Southeastern Conference is the best, most powerful, most valued football conference in the country. I have not wavered. I have said that almost every time we say this. But that doesn't mean that we close our eyes and we don't see what the SEC is trying to do. Their models are telling them that they have an incredible advantage if we go 5 plus 11 and they stay at 8 conference games. So why would the Big Ten say, okay, you get everything you want? Come on, guys. Honestly. No, I just said the Big Ten has cupcakes. Is anybody listening out there? That's not the point. Do you guys understand the difference between 9 conference games and 8? Does anybody out there understand the difference? Mathematically, you gain more losses in your conference with more conference games. The Big 12 gets hurt by this every single year versus the ACC because your winning your average ACC team is going to have a higher winning percentage with that extra non-conference game than the Big 12 does with that extra conference game. So that 9th conference game that the Big 12 plays, guess what? It's going to be a 50% winning percentage throughout the conference. Obviously, the ACC extra non-conference game, it's going to be a higher winning percentage than 50%. Same thing with the Big 10 and the Big 12.
From Larry Andrich.
Larry Andrich, can you just hold on for just 1 second, please?
I sure can.
I'm stroking out right now. Opie, thank you so much for your kindness, for your incredible generosity once again. I'm trying to answer this as plain as simple. If the SEC wants to remain as is, let's remain as is. But the SEC wants expansion in the college football playoffs. They do. Guess why they do, Opie? Guess why they do? Because they want to expand the bleeping conference. They have their vision. But we're not gonna grease all these skids for the SEC and say, why isn't the Big Ten compromising? Why isn't the big no. That dog, as you say in SEC country, that dog ain't gonna hunt. And Petitti made it real clear in this interview. Go watch it. He kept asking the question, is everybody going to play the same conference games? Because all the models are saying the same thing. Too much of advantage for the ACC and the SEC. Plain and simple. Play 9. And let's look. You know, all you guys say the same thing. Almost all you guys. Look at the middle of the Big Ten. They're no good. Look at the conference record. Because they're playing an extra conference game. It has an effect. It does. Larry Andrich, the floor is yours. Let it rip, sir.
Well, Greg, thank you for taking my call. My biggest thing is I've been here watching college football since the early 60s.
Yeah.
And I think Opie has too. And I think he kind of understands. He don't understand or hasn't given much thought that lately.
Hello. I lost you, Larry.
For how many umpteen years?
Larry, we lost you. Repeat what you just said. You went out on us.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, go ahead. You're about to say Opie doesn't understand, and then you blanked out. Explain to Opie what's going on.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I've been watching this for umpteen years.
Yeah.
And we used to play 10 games. And when we played 10 games, we played 8 conference games and 2 outside opponents to help their schools. Nowadays, we play 12 games a year. And the conferences have almost doubled in size. A lot of them have. And the SEC is going to get another upgrade here soon. Yeah. So in 8 games, you can't schedule even half your conference.
Yes.
So you end up having to, if you don't go to 9 games, there's not a very good idea of what your conference is.
And that's what a playing game does. A playing brings in a dimension. A playing game. A playing game decides it on the field because let's talk about the Southeastern Conference. Since nobody wants them to ever compromise on anything, the SEC Conference, you have a wide disparity in your scheduling. You do. You got 16 teams. You only got 8 conference games. Those are unbalanced schedules, just like in the Big Ten. Don't you want your teams to settle their placement in the SEC with the playing game? Don't you want 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5? Hey, SEC, are you afraid of competition on the football field? It just means more. Have your playing game. Make it mean even more. Larry, go ahead, sir.
Well, like I said, every conference used to play 8 games, or
yes,
8 conference games and 2 out-of-conference games. Now we go to 12 games a year. The bigger conferences are bigger. They should at least went to 9 conference games, and I wouldn't even be upset with 10 conference games and 2 out-of-conference, games.
Yep.
That would really. That would what do you call it? Change the positions of a lot of these schools that we think are halfway good and then find out they're really not when they have to play peers.
Yep.
And as I rooted for Indiana last year, I really think they deserved it. I thought Florida State deserved to get in when they went undefeated. But the biggest problem with that is, with last year, Indiana had a real light schedule. Now, I'm not taking anything away from them. Every game is a tough game.
Yep.
But they schedule.
Yep.
And how do you put SMU in over BYU. BYU beat them.
Yeah,
with the same schedule.
It was close. It was really close. It's really difficult. Yep. And what? So Indiana should have played in a playing game in the Big Ten, right?
Well, that would work. But I'll tell you what I don't like. No matter how this goes,
yes, sir.
Everybody is putting the Big Ten and the SEC so much higher than the rest of the conferences. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to say that in a year out that the ACC or the Big Ten, the Big 12 can compete school by school. But every year, they're going to have some good schools. They're going to have, but you give the SEC and the Big Ten 4 games, and you only get 2 teams in. I think that's unfair. Because there's like last year, the Big 12 deserved 3 teams in no matter what. You had 3 10-2 teams that should have got in.
Okay.
And they didn't. And this part of it I don't understand. If you're going to do it that way, play them on the field. Play the Big 12 against the Big 10 and the SEC against the ACC in the playoff games and see who goes to the championship games. You can have 8 or 10 or 12 schools from each one of these conferences playing the other one to find out who gets to go. You you don't have any idea right now who's going to end up with the committee, who's going to get that bragging right that the SEC already has with this, and the ACC with less games.
Yeah.
And I just feel that a 4-4-2-2 is a really bad sign for the ACC and the Big 12 because that's just saying, hey, we give up. And I think that 5-11 is the worst thing. They're going to get killed in that, no matter how they do it. The SEC is going to really just score all of it.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
And they know it, and that's why they're playing this. They're playing this. Woo, woo, woo. Everyone's got to compromise. No, we're not compromising. Nope.
Yeah, and I don't know. The one thing that I've always been confused about, if you can tell me.
Yes, sir.
Does either the Big Ten or the SEC have the right to, if all the rest of the leagues and conferences, I know if the Big Ten and
you're out on us, Larry.
SEC or the Big Ten, is there a way? Is that vote overwhelming to the other team?
Yes, they are. If the Big Ten and the SEC agrees, that's a wrap. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I understand.
But they don't agree.
But what happens if, say, the ACC, the Big 12, and Notre Dame vote with SEC?
I'm not sure, but it sounds like nothing happens. Like there isn't nobody's. It sounds like we just stick with what we have.
Well, I thought that if all of them voted except one,
that's what I thought. That's what I thought too.
The SEC or the ACC, huh?
But that's what I thought too. But the latest reporting seems to indicate that the Big Ten has to be on, both the SEC and the Big Ten has to be on board for there to be a change.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just as soon keep it 5-11 right now. I would probably support 4-4-3-3, 1-1 if that's that takes the committee clear out of it.
Yep. And
that gives the ACC and the Big 12 a play-in game plus the champion. This way they're really losing money after money after money to the SEC and the Big Ten. I don't think college football is ever supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
And I thank you for letting me chat. And the other thing I'm going to tell you, don't underestimate West Virginia this year. I said I didn't want Rodriguez back.
Did you watch our spotlight?
I swore I didn't want him back, but now the way I see West Virginia's getting around him and just going crazy.
Yeah, Larry, Larry, did you watch
they might have something.
Did you watch my West Virginia Spotlight on the show?
Now, you know I wouldn't miss that.
Okay, did you listen to my singing early on? At the very
Now,
start of the
that
show.
I didn't hear, but I heard you say you sang. I missed that because my...
Okay, all right. I sang Welcome Back, Carter. Go check out the start of the show. It was a terrible singing performance, but the intention was real. Go watch it.
Okay.
Dedication to Rich Rodriguez and West Virginia.
I caught that in your monologue when you started, but my notification didn't come on until after you already started.
Got it. All right.
So listen, I thank you for listening to me, and you have a great time, Greg. I don't miss your show.
You too,
I think
sir.
it's the best on YouTube.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Beautiful call. Legendary caller, Larry Andrich, Mr. Mountaineer. Opie, the second UNC says yes. Take me, they will go to 9 games. Sheesh, and no problem. With 12, since only one conference can kill the CFP deal, then what's the difference between 20 and 26 now? Hold on.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the generosity once again, Opie. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on. I appreciate your kindness so very much. Look, Opie, and then we have LSU Tiger, Ryan Brooks. LSU Tiger. I don't disagree, but when the Big Ten went mad in 9th game, now they're upset that the ACC and the SEC didn't follow their lead. You don't have to follow our lead. You don't have to follow the Big Ten. We can keep it the way it is. But don't expect this major college football playoff format change to increase the at-large bids by 4, and the SEC doesn't have to change a lick. In fact, the SEC doesn't have to change a lick, and they can tweak the metrics more than they're afraid. Come on. What are we doing here? The SEC ain't going to be able to eat you're not drinking my milkshake no more. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. What else was there? There was another comment in here. Again, Ryan Brooks. I love you, but 12 is arbitrary, just like 9 conference games. If the Big Ten can't go back to 8, this would fix both sides. Going back to 8, Ryan Brooks, don't you like playing your conference mates? Don't you like playing SEC football? Why avoid the competition? Are we just... And here's another thing. The Southeastern Conference has been playing 8 conference games, right, for a long time. But you added Texas and Oklahoma. And guess what? You're going to be adding more teams. What do you think the Southeastern Conference is going to stay at 8 conference games when you go to 18, when you go to 20 teams? You're going to be pushing the SEC brand, the most valuable brand in all of college sports internationally. But the most important thing is we stay at 8 conference games so we don't have to play each other and lose. Come on. Come on, SEC. Put your big boy pants on. Put your big boy pants on. Ryan Brooks, BYU. Go ahead, sir. Let it rip.
Well, I mean, Greg Sankey's like the guy who goes sliding into second, spikes out in the charity softball game. So, I mean, that's... I think one of the things... help me understand this. So when they signed the deal to extend the playoff contract, it was for expansion to 12 or 14, and that was under the power dynamic the way it is right now with the SEC and the Big Ten having like 2/3 the vote or something like that, somewhere around that. I have a question. To expand to 16, I thought to expand to 16 would require rework of the contract, and that might need to be something of a unanimous effort.
Yeah, it does.
So, so technically, I don't think the Big Ten and SEC can expand to 16 unilaterally.
Yeah, they can. But if they both agree, they can do it. Yes.
I'm still confused about that. But one of the things that I want to point out, the play-on games are great, but one of the downsides for the ACC and Big 12 having 2 automatic bids is it makes their conference championship game mean nothing. Because if you have a play-in game, if you have 2 play-in games, you don't really know who your champion is, and you're really actually, you don't really have a true champion. And one of the problems with that is if you do have, let's say, 1 and 2 play, and then 3 and 4 play, or something like that, one of the problems that you end up getting in that scenario is you punish a team for being in the conference championship game. And I'll tell you right now, I am all on board with a 4-4-2-2-2-1-1-1, Greg, only if my conference champion gets a bye. For Tony Petitti to sit there and say we want 4, going to give you 2 bids and we'll do straight seeding, and we don't want the committee to select teams, but we want the committee's bias in seeding teams. I can tell you right now that's DOA with me.
I agree. I agree with. I think that tweak would be needed, especially if he wants to. If he's still dreaming that this thing could pass. In other words, have your conference, have your top team per conference record and tiebreakers at the end of their season be your conference champion, right?
Yeah.
And that team gets a bye in the first round, right?
Yep.
The autonomy, the Power 4 conferences. Okay, now you can have a play-in 2 versus 3 in the Big 12, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
And the Big 10 and the other conferences. Yep.
Or the scenario is if you're only going to get 2 bids, at least if you're the Big 12 or the ACC and your champion gets they're playing for a bye and the runner-up gets the other playoff spot. At least the game means something. And that's the point. To me, I would just roll the dice with 5 plus 7, Greg. If that means if I'm only going to get 2 seeds and I'm going to be slated somewhere in the teams, I'm going to say F that and go with 5 plus 7. But to me, I would want to either have my conference champion, regular season champion rewarded and have the play-in like you mentioned, or if I'm going to have my top 2 teams play, that team gets some sort of bye or gets rewarded for its achievement. That's just sort of, I think that's the give and take compromise. There's the old, adage, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And I think going for, buys and straight seeding and basically pushing the others down to lower seeds, that's too much for me. I understand the data, but that doesn't work for me, brother.
I think with the now this is mostly just my opinion, but if you watch that interview, I think no matter what format we have with 16 teams, it sure sounds like we're going to have buys. Like it ain't going to be 1 versus 16. I think Tony Petitti, he really basically told us that. I think that's my opinion because of the scheduling difficulties and other reasons. Go ahead.
And I agree, but you don't get that and then say straight seeding and basically the conference champions of the other schools, because the committee is going to be biased in the seeding.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. I wish I disagreed with you because it's more interesting, but I absolutely agree with you.
I mean, because at some point you got. I mean, people can say what they want, but these New Year's Six bowls mean a great deal as far as attention to conferences. People don't realize that, but people are watching those New Year's Day games, Greg.
Yep.
And they get ratings, and they're a great exposure opportunity for the conference. And I don't care what anybody says. If you're straight seeding and you have buys and you're the Big 12 and the ACC, you will never sniff one of those games again. Mm-hmm. And, I think that is just DOA for me. And, I mean, I agree with you. I think they're saying 5+11 to save face or to look, objective, but really they're basically saying we'll live with 5+7 if that's our choice.
Yeah.
And, I hope that people sort of recognize that, because that matters a great deal to schools. As far as Mr. Ratzloff, all I have to say is you knew what you signed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I wish you luck, my friend. Good luck. Hopefully you get a good opportunity somewhere. Like I said, I don't buy into the conspiracy theories on that, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're each accountable for our own actions, Greg. So, we're responsible for that, and that's just life.
Yeah.
But anyway, keep up the good work. He'll probably end up in Tennessee throwing picks for the Volunteers. So I'm sure Jamie will love seeing Tennessee, throw 96-yard return pick sixes in the SEC game. But by the way,
tell you what, man, you BYU Cougar fans, you guys are tough. You guys are tough. He had some great moments. You guys were spectacular last year. It was fun.
The defense was spectacular last year.
Huh?
The defense was,
I know, but he made some fourth quarter stuff happen, man.
I will give him credit to Oklahoma State, but man, he also did some boneheaded things that almost cost us games.
I tell you what, if the Gophers had that season, I would be giving Ryan Thomas Gopher propaganda every single day. But you guys have that season, and you guys are just tough, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, I see potential. It just makes me mad because for years we had crappy defenses, and now we have a great defense.
Yes, you do.
And it just to me, to get a subpar offense is not that's not something you expect from the school given its history.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That school should be recruiting Big Ten sized offensive linemen and NFL sized linemen it has before in the past. And this offensive coordinator doesn't even talk to his other coaches. And the last offensive line coach basically let the whole thing go to pot and ruin the system. And, I mean, the guy thinks that this is the 1990s whack where it's a video game. He has no concept of basically, setting up anything coherent. I mean, this run-pass option garbage, it's very frustrating for me. So that, for me, it drives me crazy. Some BYU fans love him. I can't stand him. The sooner he goes, the better and the happier I'll be.
Wow.
But anyway, I'll love you. Leave everyone for the best of the show. Rest of the show. Take care, Greg. Great show as always. Bye.
Got it. Beautiful. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Great call. Great call, Ryan Thomas. Hold on one second here. I got to clean something up. I agreed with a lot of what Ryan Thomas said. I wish I would have disagreed with him because it makes a more interesting podcast. But I agree. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. What am I doing? Replica. Mr. Longhorn, long-time member of the program, 16 months. 16 months. That's how brave Replica is because, first of all, thank you so much, Replica, for being a member of our program once again. You are officially knighted, cloak, and dagger. The SEC fans are terrified of having the gargantuan Texas Longhorns as their 9th conference game. Us, on the other hand, we fear God. The Longhorns aren't scared of nobody. Thank you, Replica. I appreciate it so very much. I thought Replica, after I predicted in my way too early predictions, when I predicted the Texas Longhorns to become the 2026 national champions. Now, again, I might change. The official predictions comes in August, but this was my way too early college football playoff prediction. The Longhorns beating Clemson. I thought for sure when I did that way too early prediction that Replica would say that's it. The fat guy from Minnesota is way too mean. How could he do this to me? How could he predict my Longhorns to win it all when he knows and everybody knows that Greg the Cooler, that he just put the curse on my Longhorns? But Replica did not run away. Replica is here to stay. Because what Replica understands that a lot of you don't understand is when I predict the Texas Longhorns to win it all this year, it's not Greg the Cooler. It's not Greg the Cooler. It's Greg the GOAT. Longhorns. It's happening. Okay, thank you so much for being a member for 16 months, Replica. I very much appreciate it. Devil Frog. Don't be a jerk, Greg. If the Big 12 and the ACC have to pay the same amount for the House settlement, then they need the same number of automatic qualifiers. Well, hopefully, Brett Yormark and Phillips are saying, okay, we do automatic qualifiers, but we need the same amount. We'll see what happens there. But I have said when it comes to the automatic qualifiers, that it should not be cemented. It should not be permanent. That's the problem that I have with it. It should be adjustable. There should be look-ins. But even if we disagree, Devil Frog, I don't think I'm being a jerk. I really don't think I'm being a jerk. I'm not sure why you use that language. Because I'm not going to say, Devil Frog, I'm not going to say, you're being a jerk, because I think the 5+11 model with the SEC staying at eight conference games is going to absolutely bury the Big 12. I'm not going to say you're a jerk, because I think that actually your position would ultimately hurt the playoff access for the Big 12, that you would get less Big 12 teams, because Bill Connelly and everybody else, their data has shown the same results. I'm not going to say you're a jerk. I'm just going to say we disagree. So I'm not sure why you're using that language. I'm not being a jerk. I believe, just my opinion, I believe the same thing with Joe Klatt, that the automatic qualifiers are going to make the conference games, the regular season, more valuable, more important for more teams later in the season. Stephen Vitt. And then Texas disappoints Greg. The end. The end. My only friend. The end. The Doors. 1971. Maybe. 72. Something like that. Don Scruggs. The CFP should be adjustable. The better the SEC teams are, the more should be able to be in the playoffs. Well, with the automatic qualifiers, you would get 4 in, and then there could be 3 at-large bids for the SEC to get. I feel so bad for Texas this year. So bad. They're going to be fine, James Davis. They are going to be fine. What did we see from Indiana and Tennessee that shows they deserve a guaranteed shot to compete for a national championship? Well, replica number 1, there's going to be blowouts in the playoffs. There's always going to be blowouts in the playoffs. Always. Just like in every sport. Number 2, according to Tony Petitti's plan, which I think he did an excellent job of giving everybody the vision of it, arguing for it on Joe Klatt's show, Indiana and Tennessee would have both had to play a play-in game. And if Indiana would have lost the play-in game, there's a very good chance, Indiana would have not gotten the on that large bid. That's the beauty of a play-in game. That is a great argument for a play-in game. Automatic qualifiers, you got to win your play-in game. If you don't win your play-in game, guess what? You've got 3 out of bids that you're going to possibly get, but you might not get. That's the beauty of it. Ryan Brooks, I like the 4-4-2-5-2-5. I do as well. I think the Big 12 and the ACC would make money, and then that can be there should be a look-in period on those numbers. Yes, this chat is Kurt, and it's been brilliant. PATC family has been brilliant once again today. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. We can come on live at any time, in the morning, in the afternoon, late at night, so you got to be notified. Turn those notifications on. Please subscribe to our channel. And please smash the like button if you've liked our content today. If I've been too tough on the SEC, smash that thumbs down button and let me know in the comments section, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm as well. Smash that thumbs down button to your delight. If I've been too tough on anybody today. If my singing, and it was a bad performance, no question about it. If my singing at the start of the show, is that bad content? Yes. Smash that thumbs down button. Smash it. Ohio State was number 4 in the Big Ten, Replica. Number 4. And they won it all. Chris Kinney, does Illinois, Minnesota, Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina have a realistic chance to win a ship? The answer is no. I do think they have a chance, though. I do. Not much, but they do. South Carolina was almost in the playoffs last year. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yes, Greg, I'm a jerk because you want the big... I did not call you a jerk. I did not call you a jerk. You called me a jerk. Big difference. Big difference. Big difference. I did not call you a jerk. I said, just because we disagree, you are not a jerk. But you're calling me a jerk. Given Iowa, they were 6 in lieu of BYU, and Colorado is nuts. Exactly, Replica. Let's see here. Some years, that would be true. Some years, I mean, Colorado lost to Nebraska, got their doors blown out by Nebraska. Iowa beat Nebraska. But yeah, some years, the 6th place in any conference, it would change from year to year. No question about it. But look, you want to take it from a Big 12 standpoint. If you want to take it from a Big 12 standpoint, if you want the 5+11, if that is what you want, then tell Brett Yormark to insist that the SEC goes to 9 conference games. Because if you don't, you're just shooting off your big toe. That's all you're doing. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't know. Did anybody watch this show today? Did anybody, you guys, there are times that I kind of hope you go to 5+11 and the SEC stays at 8 conference games. Because if you think that is better for the Big 12, I don't know what you're looking at. I have no idea what you guys are looking at. None of the data shows that. None of the data shows that. But for whatever reason, the Big 12, most of the fans are heavily invested in the 5+11, and they don't give a damn what the SEC does. It's remarkable. It really is. It really is. Iowa would not get an automatic bid. They would have to win their playing game. Greg, why don't you address my point about the Big 12 and the ACC subsidizing the Big 10 and the SEC? My question is how are you subsidizing the Big 10 and the SEC? How are you doing that? Heartbreak 25. Didn't the Big 12 and the ACC already admit they're not equal to the Big 10 and the SEC by agreeing to less playoff money? I think what they admitted to is the Big 10 and the SEC brings more viewership, therefore they should get a little bit more money. Just like this unequal stuff going on in the ACC. Just like what's going to happen probably in the Big 10. I mean, people in the Big 12 basically have demanded the last 3 years that the Big 10 go to unequal revenue sharing because some schools don't. So they are, but when it comes to the playoffs, you know. BYU football. I don't know. Notre Dame is bringing back everyone and will probably have a quarterback that completes forward passes. CJ Carr was brilliant in spring ball. He was absolutely brilliant. So, but this is his first year as a starter. You know, first time facing live bullets weekend, and we don't know what we're getting. But CJ Carr's ceiling was much higher than Riley Leonard. But Riley Leonard was good last year. He was tough. He was really tough. Look, I don't know how else to say this. James Davis, I'm a bigger fan of the sport than my team or conference. Just because it helps my team doesn't mean it's right. If there was a 3+3+3+3 model, I would love it. No problem. None. Give it to me. Let's go. Because these automatic qualifiers is going to make the regular season more interesting. It is more valuable. More teams are going to be in it at the end. You're going to know what your team needs to do to get into a playoff game, to get in position. I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Of course I am. And I've said over and over again, the 4-4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3, I don't like the permanence of it. It should be able to change. But, once again, we've done a whole live show. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 18 minutes. And once again, there is literally no comments from any ACC or Big 12 fans in the chat room that says 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8 conference games is not going to work. Not going to be good for the Big 12. For whatever reason, I don't know what. Maybe it's because Brett Yormark and his public comments. I don't know what it is. But the Big 12, most, of course not all, but the majority of the Big 12 fan bases are rock solid in the 5+11. That's what you want. Without the SEC going to 9 conference games. You know what would have happened last year? The Big 12 would have had one team in the playoffs if it was 5+11. And that was a down year for the SEC. A down year. That was not a good, it was not a great Alabama team. So I don't know. I understand the pushback on Tony Petitti, but there is hardly any pushback on Greg Sankey. It's quite remarkable. Whatever Greg Sankey has done, because he got out in front, he argued his point, and Silent Tony stayed silent. Well, hopefully Silent Tony keeps talking, because what he did on the Joe Klatt show I find impressive. I thought he put out some really good arguments. Really good arguments. All right, we've been back and forth. The elbows have been thrown. Elbows have been thrown. I want to thank all of you to join us. We've been over, 2 hours and 20 minutes? 2 hours and 15 minutes. I appreciate you all coming in. If you haven't done it, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. I want to thank Ricky Tungate, RFR Mac, Heartbreak 25, Jacoba Cat, Daniel Gorby, Expedition Greg, Opie, Replica, again, Heartbreak 25. Thank you all for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on here. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments, especially the ones that disagree with me. It makes the show so much interesting. I believe Joe Klatt did a great job. I think he did a great job interviewing Tony Petitti. Got some stuff out of him. Go check it out. Go check it out. And again, we did our West Virginia Mountaineer Spotlight. Nico, Markio, Yaheem White, Rodney Gallagher. It's time for him to explode this year. The high school recruit of about 2 years. This is his third year. A couple of years ago in the state of Pennsylvania, Cam Vaughn transferred from Jacksonville State. Electrifying wide receiver last year. Rich Rod brought him with him to Morgantown. And then Jamori Robinson, big time rush and AAC Player of the Year defensively. Jamori Robinson is also in Morgantown. So West Virginia, they did some good stuff in the portal. We'll see what happens. I want to thank everybody. Keep your head on a swivel. Tomorrow is July 1st. We're starting the last month without any college football. This is the very last month without any college football for 2025. July 1st is when everything becomes official. The College Sports Commission, Deloitte, everything. Players are going to start getting paid direct from their athletic department. The rev share checks are going to be delivered starting tomorrow. And now more lawsuits are going to be coming on in. So buckle up. Keep your head on a swivel. This week is going to be a big week. Brett McMurphy just joined on 3 Sports. You're going to know he's probably going to make a big splash. So everybody buckle up. Brace for impact. Again, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button. Stay with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We are heading towards the college football season. Tomorrow, what team is PATC going to put under the spotlight? What team are we choosing next? We shall see. We shall see. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.